Maomao and the rest of Jade Pavilion was at the garden party. Being the guest of honor, Lady Gyokuyu had retreated with Hongniang to her post, leaving Maomao and the rest of the servants outside. The season was winter and the weather was cold. Even with the heat stones, Maomao and the ladies-in-waiting were still shuddering in the cold of winter. As the party began to assemble, Maomao was able to catch a glimpse of the emperor and his family. While the emperor sat on the throne, the emperor's mother was seated to his right with Princess Lingli in her arms. When Maomao commented on how young the Empress Dowager appeared, one of the maidservants began to explain to Maomao that the Empress Dowager was actually only a child herself when she had the emperor. This caused Maomao to wonder how the Empress Dowager managed to get pregnant in the first place. But before she wondered about it even more, she noticed that there was an empty seat next to the emperor. The maidservant replied that it was for the emperor's brother, the imperial prince. Before Maomao can think about who the imperial prince might be, she was interrupted by Yinghua's loud voice as Yinghua fought with the ladies-in-waiting of the Crystal Pavilion. Upon a closer look, Maomao realized that one of the ladies-in-waiting was a lady she threatened during her stay in the Crystal Pavilion. Seeing how cheeky she was acting, Maomao decided to reveal herself to her, causing the ladies to run in fear. After they left, Maomao suggested that they replace the heat stones for they were no longer warm. Seeing how thoughtful Maomao was, they quickly accompanied Maomao towards the stove. That was when they encountered the ladies-in-waiting of the Diamond Pavilion quarreling with the ladies-in-waiting of the Garnet Pavilion. Yinghua and the others commented on how it was only natural for the two sides to clash, as one of them used to be the mother-in-law of the other, the high consort of the late emperor becoming a high consort of his son, the current emperor. Such was the family issues of the imperial family. That was when it was revealed to Maomao that Lady Lishu was actually the mother-in-law, for she became a consort to the late emperor at the age of 9, and the late emperor was a lolicon. He only fancied young little girls, which explained why the Empress Dowager was so young. After gossiping, Maomao and one of the maidservants went to check on Princess Lingli. They happened to see High Consort Lishu pass by. She was clad in a red dress, unbefitting her as the High Consort of the Diamond Pavilion, and her symbolic color was supposed to be white. Red, on the other hand, was Lady Gyokyu's symbolic color. For Lady Lishu to wear the color red could only mean that she was either doing it on purpose or she didn't know how to read the mood. With that, Maomao returned to her work. Yinghua began to explain that the ornaments that they give out signified their symbol, which they gave to those who they wanted to serve them. But Maomao was not interested and left them to explore around. A military official introduced himself as Li Haku and gave Maomao a hairpin as he quickly left. Seeing that Maomao had been given a hairpin, the rest of the ladies-in-waiting quickly gathered around her to celebrate. That was when Lady Lihua appeared before them, wearing an elegant blue gown decorated with pearls and crystal. She slowly stepped forward to give Maomao a hairpin of her own, decorated with pearls and crystals to signify the symbol of the Crystal Pavilion. Upon giving Maomao the hairpin, Lady Lihua quickly left. Seeing such a sight, the ladies-in-waiting of the Jade Pavilion were all in shock. For a lady-in-waiting of the Jade Pavilion to receive an ornament of the High Consort of the Crystal Pavilion, it might not have ended well. With the preparation done, the party was now ready to commence. Maomao, who was the food tester of Lady Gyokuyu, was seated next to her beside the emperor. Meanwhile, the court officials were seated on both sides. Maomao recognized Gao Shun, who was placed as a high-ranking official. She also recognized Lahaku as well. The maidservants began to prepare food for the table in front of her. The first thing she had to test was alcohol poured into a silver cup. After examining it, she speculated that there was no poison. But since it was required of her to taste to alcohol, she did. As she suspected, there was no poison. The other food testers were very hesitant in taking the food, while she did it without hesitation. Inspecting her next dish, she noticed that the food presented was something that didn't match the emperor's taste. Since Lady Gyukyu was not a picky eater, she usually just eats whatever the emperor was eating. But the dish before her was clearly made for another person other than the emperor. Maomao ate the dish anyway. There was no poison in it. But as she finished eating, she noticed something very wrong with Lady Lishu. The dish that was delivered to Lady Lishu was filled with mackerel, a dish that the emperor favors. But it would seem that Lady Lishu didn't want to eat it. Even if that was the case, Lady Lishu could not lose face in front of the emperor. She would have to eat at least once bite, which she did. Upon looking at the food taster of Lady Lishu, Maomao noticed that she had a grin in her face. Maomao realized that the lady-in-waiting purposely gave Lady Lishu a dish she hates to bully her. The next dish presented was the broth. Maomao inspected it carefully. It looked normal. While she was doing her job, all the court officials and the ladies-in-waiting had their eyes fixed on her. The mere fact that she wasn't hesitating at all while tasting the food made her extraordinary. As she tasted the broth, the spectators saw a face that they never thought they'd see in a food taster, a face brimming with a smile of ecstasy. But Maomao quickly spit the food into a hand towel and declared that there was poison in that dish. She rushes to rinse her mouth with water. Several men are alarmed by this news and warn everyone. Meanwhile, Jinshi arrives and learns one of the ministers drank the poisoned soup and collapsed. Jinshi went to check that Maomao was all right. She accidentally greets him with a smile due to the excitement of having the taste of poison. Jinshi then dragged Maomao to a physician. Maomao then feels disappointed that she did not get to swallow the broth and starts fantasizing about the numbness she would have had if she did. He informs Maomao that someone drank the soup to see if Maomao was lying and ended up collapsing. Maomao takes out a bag of emetic agents and says the minister should use it. Maomao then noticed the new hairpin in Jinshi's hair. Maomao started to think he was indecently engaged somewhere else. After ridding herself of all the poison in her body, Maomao asks Jinshi to bring Lishu to her to discuss the poisoned soup incident. Jinshi apologized, bringing back his heavenly maiden persona. Consort Lishu then replied with hearts in her eyes that it was fine and that she didn't mind at all. Jinshi then told her that the person who wanted to see her was Maomao. Maomao suddenly said to excuse her as she pushed up the consort's sleeve up to reveal rashes on her arm. Lishu then pulled back her arm and looked ashamed. Maomao then revealed that Lishu can't eat fish and shellfish. She explained that there were people who are allergic to some particular food, which causes several reactions and can sometimes cause death. But Lishu was lucky that it was just hives. It could have been heart failure or trouble breathing. If someone knowing this served it to Lishu, it could be the same as them trying to kill her. Everyone's faces went dark as Maomao said that it could cost the High Consort's life. Maomao tells the taster she's prepared a note for her to take with her for emergencies. The lady trembled with fear and took the list, nodding. Lishu and her taster leave. Jinshi ponders if someone had the meal swapped and poisoned on purpose. Maomao afterward started to dismiss herself to go to Consort Gyokuyu to make her report. Jinshi then stopped her and asked that the person who was supposed to be poisoned today was Lishu, the virtuous consort. Maomao then looked down and said if there were no other poisoned dishes, that it looked so. After drinking the poisoned soup, Maomao was made to take bed rest by the other ladies-in-waiting. However, her sleep is troubled by dreams of her father, forcing her to wonder how he is getting along without her. Maomao woke up and reported to Lady Gyokuyu for work. She told Maomao that Gaoshun is at the Jade Pavilion. Gaoshun has brought the poisoned soup for Maomao to examine. After verifying that Gaoshun didn't touch the bowl, Maomao used flour and a brush to check for fingerprints. She informed Gaoshun that 4 different people had touched the bowl. The person who poured the soup in the bowl, the person who set the bowl on the tray, Lishu's food taster, and an unknown 4th person. Maomao speculated that Lishu's food taster might have switched Lishu's bowl with Gyokuyu's bowl in order to bully her lady. She notes that Lishu's ladies-in-waiting had made her look like a fool at the garden party by purposely dressing her in a color that clashed with Gyokuyu's clothes, and the young Lishu was too immature to realize what they were doing. Maomao surmised that the 4th set of fingerprints on the rim belonged to the person who put the poison in the soup, as maids are taught to never touch the rim of the bowl. Through a strange twist of fate, both Gyokuyu and Lishu managed to escape with their lives. Gaoshun suddenly asked Maomao why she covered for the food taster yesterday. Maomao replied that the life of a lady-in-waiting was worth far less than that of a consort. Gaoshun took the soup back to Jinshi for his report. Jinshi realized that the poisoning was an inside job. He had been so caught up in his work that he didn't even have time to change his clothes, and he was still wearing the hairpin, which he tossed onto his desk casually. Gaoshun reminded Jinshi to act according to his station and left. According to Xiaolan, everyone has been talking about the garden party. Xiaolan didn't know that Maomao was the maid who drank the poison. When she learned that Maomao had received 3 hairpins at the party, she told Maomao that she could leave the inner court. Xiaolan explained that a lady can use a hairpin to send for a man and request a leave from the inner court. Sometime later, Maomao requested to meet with Lihaku. Maomao asked for him to vouch for her so she could go back to see her family. Lihaku was annoyed to be used in this way, but Maomao offered him suitable compensation, letters of introduction to the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house. Lihaku was skeptical, since the 3 princesses were known to be out of reach for even the most high-ranking officials. Maomao made to leave, mentioning that she had other options, so Lihaku gave in and agreed. Maomao would be able to visit her home for 3 days. The Jade Pavilion maids congratulated Maomao, but Hongniang was uneasy because Maomao seemed to have no idea what the hairpins truly meant. Lady Jokuyu, on the other hand, was amused by the thought of how Jinshi would react when he learned of this. Jinshi was stunned when he learned from Lady Jokuyu that Maomao had already left the inner court and is on a 3-day homecoming trip. Meanwhile, Maomao and Lihaku had arrived at the Verdigris house. The madam greeted Maomao violently, but seemed interested in Lihaku for his rising career and youth. She asks for Perrin, one of the 3 princesses, to be brought to him. After Lihaku left, the madam berated Maomao for disappearing for 10 months, though Maomao reminds her that she sent her a letter. She gives the madam some of her wages, but the madam says that it isn't enough and suggests that Maomao becomes a courtesan. Maomao refused. The madam told her to go back to her father. Maomao finally returned home and saw her father, Luomen. The two had a happy reunion, and Maomao told Luomen about everything that happened to her. When Maomao fell asleep, Luomen mused that it was fate that she ended up in the inner court. The next morning, Maomao woke and finds her father was gone. As she went outside to look at the garden, she heard a banging on the door. An apprentice from one of the brothels was looking for her father, but when she saw Maomao, she dragged her to her brothel. There, Maomao found a courtesan and her client unconscious in a bed, seemingly having ingested poison. Maomao managed to save them. She inspected the crime scene, which consisted of 2 decanters of liquor, broken glass, stains of 2 different colors on the bed, a pipe, and straw. She also found some tobacco. The apprentice gave her the charcoal and bark she asked for. Maomao wrote something on it and instructed the apprentice to go and give it to her father. The apprentice returns with Luomen, who commended Maomao for her treatment of the victims. Maomao mentally noted that Luomen has already figured out what happened just from looking at the room. Luomen asked her what poison they ingested, and Maomao answered that it was tobacco for a lover's suicide. Just then, the apprentice told them that tea was ready. The madam of the brothel apologized for the trouble and served them fancy snacks normally served to patrons. Maomao noticed that she was using a piece of straw, similar to the ones found in the courtesan's room, to drink tea so as to not ruin her lipstick. Maomao, thinking about the appearance of the man, doubts that this is a lover's suicide. Maomao went to check on the two and caught the apprentice about to stab him with a knife. She stopped her, but the apprentice yelled that he was better off dead. A courtesan heard the commotion and came in to see what was going on. The courtesan explained that the man had offered to buy out the apprentice's sister, but then suddenly went back on his offer, so the sister killed herself. The man was in fact notorious for doing this to multiple women. He had been poisoned and attacked before, but his wealthy merchant father always cleaned up his messes with money. The apprentice had also been close to the poisoned courtesan and must have felt betrayed when everyone was relieved when the man survived. Maomao realized that the courtesan was trying to get her to not tell anyone about this incident. On the way home, Maomao hypothesized that the apprentice probably knew that Luomen wasn't home when she visited and that she came for the apothecary instead of a doctor on purpose. She guessed that the man would probably be banned from the pleasure district from now on, but was still doubtful that he would take part in a lover's suicide. Luomen told her not to speculate out loud. Maomao thought back to the scene and connected the dots. Luomen, seeing that she figured it out, told her not to think about it anymore. But Maomao now suspected that this was an attempted murder, not a lover's suicide, by the courtesan. To kill the man, she used alcohol steeped in tobacco, mixing 2 types of alcohol together so that one would be layered on top of the other. She drank it first to lull him into a false sense of safety, but used a straw to drink from the bottom layer of the drink. The man would drink from the top layer with his mouth. After he was out cold, the courtesan scattered tobacco around the room to cover up the scent of the poisoned alcohol and to make it look like a lover's suicide. She then drank a small amount from the top to avoid death and to make herself look less suspicious. She did it in the morning so that someone would discover them. Outside the brothel, Maomao saw the courtesan, now awake. Maomao was bothered that the apprentice delayed bringing Luoman on purpose, seemingly not caring that the courtesan could have also died like her sister, almost as though the apprentice knew the courtesan wouldn't die. The more Maomao thought about the behavior of the brothel's employees, the more suspicious it all seemed. Maomao decided not to think about it any further and mused about the fact that both the rear palace and the pleasure district were like a garden and a birdcage at the same time. The more people spend time there, the more poisoned their thoughts get. Maomao didn't know what would happen to the courtesan and decided that it had nothing to do with her. Maomao's 3-day visit came to an end, and she must return to the rear palace. Li Haku had completely fallen under Perrin's spell, and Perrin also seems taken with him. When Maomao returned to the Jade Pavilion, she was met with a fuming Jinshi and an amused Gyokuyu. Jinshi told Maomao that he would be waiting for her in the reception room. Once there, Maomao was unnerved by Jinshi's glare and the fact that they were alone in the room. Jinshi started off by asking about her trip home, then asked who Li Haku is. Maomao answered that he was her patron, and Jinshi questioned if she truly knew what that meant. Maomao didn't understand what the problem was. He asked if she received a hairpin from Li Haku, and she replied that she had, and that he seemed to be handing them out to all the ladies for the sake of duty. Jinshi was annoyed that he lost to a hairpin that was given to her out of obligation and asked her why she didn't go to him for help. Maomao responded that she couldn't think of any satisfying way to repay the favor. Jinshi asked if she did it for Li Haku, and she says that she gave him a night to remember and that he was thoroughly satisfied. Jinshi, misunderstanding her and believed that the two got intimate with each other, he was too shocked to speak and spilled his tea. Lady Gyokuyu was laughing at the situation of Jinshi. Jinshi was still heartstruck from Maomao's reply at night. Gaoshun thought that Jinshi would never become so attached to a plaything. They had gotten the truth from Gyokuyu after the incident in the reception room. Gaoshun couldn't help but sympathize with Jinshi a little, but wished that he thought about his work a little more. A messenger arrived just then and delivered shocking news that an important official named Konan had died. Jinshi delivered the news to Gyokuyu. Maomao, the only attendant there, learned that Konan, a heavy drinker, died from drinking too much alcohol. Jinshi asked her if she really thought that alcohol killed him. He explained that Konan only drank half his usual amount at a party. The vessel he was drinking from had shattered, so there was no way of checking for poison. Maomao sampled the alcohol and found that it has an unusual flavor, like salt added to sweet liquor. Jinshi said that Konan suddenly became a sweet tooth one day and didn't touch salty foods. Salty foods had been served at the party as well. Maomao asked for the shards of the vessel to be brought to her. She also asked for another thing she wants Jinshi to look into for her. The shards are brought to Maomao. Maomao tasted salt on them. It appeared that Konan's jug contained so much salt that some still remained even now. She explained that too much salt can kill a person, which was most likely how he died. Jinshi wondered why Konan didn't taste the difference. Maomao showed him the record of Konan's daily habits and speculated that he lost the ability to taste salty flavors. His inability to taste salt coming from the fact that his family died early. Perhaps someone was trying to play a prank on him, not knowing about his condition. Jinshi whispered something to Gaoshun, who left. Maomao guessed that Jinshi, who was close to Konan, had a suspect in mind. She then noticed a talisman of mourning on Jinshi's clothes and asks if Konan was close to him. Jinshi explained that he took care of him when he was younger. He gave her a gourd of alcohol as thanks. He teased her by talking about a law proposal that wanted to raise the drinking age to 20. Maomao begged him to stop it, but he simply laughed. At night, a servant girl throws herself from the palace walls into the moat. She drowned deep in the water and died. Someone informs the palace's doctor and Maomao about the incident. Maomao has no qualms about seeing a corpse, but she doesn't dare to touch it. Her father prohibited her from handling corpses due to concerns that her fascination with them could potentially lead to a grave robbing obsession. The quack doctor being a sissy, she can only observe how the girl died. Gao Shun informs the location and other details about the servant girl. Maomao, Jinshi, and Gao Shun return to Jinshi's quarters to discuss this incident. Jinshi said some guard believes she climbed the wall last night and threw herself in. Maomao was unsure if the maid committed suicide or if she was murdered. She explained that the rear palace walls are 4 times higher than her height, and there was no ladders or other climbing tools on the wall. But during the case of concubine Fu Yu, she discovered the protrusions that the craftsman used to climb the walls, but it was still difficult for the servant girl to climb, especially with bound feet. Jinshi asked her that if it's a murder. Maomao replied that based on the evidence she was alive when she fell in the moat, and she must have tried to climb out of the water as she observed the fingers were bloodied and red. She is not sure if it was a suicide or murder. She walks by a plant and contemplates the idea of death and its relation to fate after contemplating all the cases she's been involved with. Jinshi asked her what she is thinking about. Maomao replied what kind of poison she would use to die. Maomao asks Jinshi if he was ordered to kill her. Jinshi should kill her with poison. Jinshi doesn't know why Maomao would suggest such a thing, considering the amount of death that has taken place with the cases in the palace and the cruel reality she had been surrounded by since she was a kid. She understands how lives can just disappear in an instant, just like that, through whatever way. Maomao then leaves the meeting room. She reflects on the maid's predicament and says she heard rumors that she was at the garden party poison incident. Moreover, she heard people found a suicide note at the scene, so people ruled her case as suicide and closed it. As for the burnt arm case, Gao Shun informs Jinshi that they've found the culprit behind it all. He states, the Garnet Pavilion's Feng Ming, the head lady-in-waiting for Lady Arduo, is the perpetrator. Gao Shun leaves, and Jinshi pondering the situation further. The next day, Maomao and Xiaolan discussing Lady Arduo's servant's suicide case. Xiaolan says she heard that Lady Arduo might get replaced by a younger concubine soon. Like Lady Lihua, she's a victim of the same scenario of losing her child as an infant. Maomao believes Arduo might lose her title because she might be incapable of producing children, which is a must for the rear palace's system. She wonders if Lady Lihua will meet a similar fate if she can't produce a baby. Maomao gives Xiaolan leftovers from a previous tea party event and departs. She returns to the Jade Pavilion, discovering they're holding a second tea party. She learns Lady Lishu's attending this one and examines everyone's behavior at this party. While everyone's seated, Maomao studies Lishu's servants and ponders if they're still actively harassing her like before. After Lady Gyokuyu serves Lishu some honey-flavored tea, Lishu refuses to drink it. Maomao notices Lishu's servants gossiping about Lishu's behavior toward the beverage. Therefore, Maomao secretly assists Lishu by signaling to Gyokuyu that the drink is no good. Gyokuyu asks her Ailan to provide them with hot ginger tea. Gyokuyu ladies-in-waiting kick Maomao out of the area so she can get rest. Maomao encounters Jinshi, who discusses the rumors surrounding the culprit who supposedly committed suicide by drowning at the Garnet Pavilion. Jinshi tells Maomao to help the Garnet Pavilion with a few tasks and to find more about the case. Maomao visits Arduo's pavilion and examines everyone. After greeting Arduo, her head lady-in-waiting Feng Ming leads Maomao and others to a book room and asks them to air the books out and other tasks. While tackling these duties, Maomao examines her surroundings, and the servants of the house are engaged in a spring cleaning type procedure. Everyone seems hard-working and determined, a clear byproduct of the personal attitude of the head lady-in-waiting Feng Ming. Her kind nature and strong work ethic have spread throughout the household, creating a positive and determined atmosphere. She then wonders if the mastermind behind the Lishu poison incident came from here. She breaks down the possibilities of Feng Ming being the culprit, highlighting what she'd gained from committing such an act. Since Arduo might lose her title and might get replaced by Lady Lishu, so it is obvious to target Lady Lishu. After learning about Feng Ming's family runs an apiary and they have lots of honey despite it being so expensive, Maomao spots Lishu at the Garnet Pavilion. Then she reports her findings to Jinshi. Although she doesn't have much to report, she suspects Feng Ming of being involved in a possible conspiracy based on the fact that she saw the head lady-in-waiting had a bandaged arm. Jinshi presents Maomao with a honey reward, but Maomao refuses to eat the honey from his fingers. While uncomfortable, Maomao conjures up a theory about the current predicament. Suddenly, Gyokuyu arrives and scolds Jinshi for his strange actions. Maomao departs and meets with Lishu. She asks her questions about her concerns about honey. Lishu says she avoids honey because many nurses told her it's a life-threatening dish. Lishu's ladies-in-waiting scold Maomao for probing Lishu. Maomao knows Lishu's ladies-in-waiting couldn't care less about Lishu. However, she tells them if they have issues with her asking Lishu questions of this nature, they can report their issues to Jinshi. After asking Lishu about her relationship with Feng Ming, Maomao takes a stroll around the palace with Gao Shun. She asks Gao Shun if he knows a place where she can obtain data about past events that occurred in the rear palace. Gao Shun takes Maomao to the court library. Maomao learns that about 17 years ago, the current emperor and Aduos had a son and a foster siblings. Moreover, she learns Dr. Luomen, her adoptive father, helped Aduo give birth to her son. Several herbs growing in the rear palace are the same ones she used to grow back home. Maomao questioning her father's actions and wonders what he was doing at the inner palace. Next part of the video is coming soon. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel.